I am the greatest.
Be water, my friend.
Okay, welcome to One Hit Podcast, episode 10, and with the legend of Taekwondo himself, Mr. Michael Cormack. Welcome, sir. How's things?
Things are wonderful. It's a good morning here. I presume it's good afternoon over there in Belfast.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's a bit different, a bit colder here now.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got a nice Indian summer over here, and was out for a jog this morning and feeling fresh, and it's about 20 degrees Celsius, so we're all good.
Lovely, lovely. And for some of our guests that mightn't know who you are yourself, sir, I come across you in the Taekwondo world. You're one of the Hall of Fame members of Taekwondo, and we'll get to that in a bit soon. But can you tell listeners, like, you're from Toronto, we're talking to you right now in Canada, and with your listeners, what your background actually is. So we said Taekwondo, so you're a very important part of Taekwondo. You're part of some of the famous demonstration teams, and just for our listeners, like, how important was that for you to become a member of the demonstration team?
Sure. In advance of that, I'll let you know a tiny bit of my background, as you initially asked. And I started actually in martial arts doing judo, of all things. I went up to about green belt. I started when I was 10 years old. One of the teachers in my school was a black belt, and he had a class after school, and it attracted me to the martial arts in general. Many years later, I started Taekwondo with Park Jung-soo, Grandmaster Jung-soo Park Jung-soo in Toronto, when I was 18 and a half, 19 years old. So I was doing other sports, sailing and windsurfing and what have you in the interim, but always active in physical education and things of that nature. But I became enthralled with Taekwondo. What I loved about it was its diversity, the fact that you had kicking and punching as opposed to karate, where it was mostly hands, although many styles of karate do utilize the feet, like shotokan and what have you. But Taekwondo was dynamic. It was a Korean martial art. I was interested in the Korean civilization and culture, and I just morphed into it, and it became a way of life. I was training 5-6 days a week. I was very active in the tournament scene in Canada. I am from Toronto, and that's where I began with the John Park Institute branch school in Scarborough, which is about 10-15 miles from downtown. And I studied with Kees Koekens, who was the Dutch national champion. He came over to study with Grandmaster Park. He was Master Park at the time. Grandmaster Park is a very well-known person in the Taekwondo world, and many people from around the world came and trained in our school. So I met people from Australia, New Zealand. I met people from Germany, Holland, where Taekwondo was thriving. Keep in mind, Taekwondo was very active in the late 60s and early 70s in those parts of the world. The United Kingdom as well, through Grandmaster Riki Ha, who was one of the most, like Grandmaster Park, Riki Ha from Glasgow, Scotland, and he spread it throughout the United Kingdom, which you well know. So he was, in essence, the founder of Taekwondo in Great Britain, the UK. Grandmaster Park, as well as a number of other WTF, WT now stylists. Chung Lee from Montreal, he was the first Korean in Canada in the Montreal scene. So you had terrific tournament fighters coming out of Montreal, Quebec, and Toronto, Ontario, because of those two leaders, if you will. I'm a little more centric into the Taekwondo sparring. It's something that captivated me. Of course, I love patterns. As I've said in the past, you need a good arsenal, and we're better to get that arsenal for sparring in patterns, 1-step, 2-step, 3-step sparring, what have you. So I was training in class, sparring after class, and attending tournaments literally almost every weekend. The tournament scene in Canada was on fire at the time. So downtown Toronto, Hamilton, I think there's a place in Scotland called Hamilton where the original name came from. Welland, we went down to Niagara Falls, across to Buffalo, Rochester in the US, and Felt Forum at Madison Square Gardens is where Chihak S. Henry Cho had his very famous championships where the whole US and Canada participated. So I went to my first one as a young lad at about, I think I was a green or blue belt, perhaps blue tag at the time, as you refer to it, blue stripe, they say over here. And I competed. I got to the final 3, and I was fighting guys from the Bronx. When they went home, I couldn't even go with them. These are tough guys. And so it was a great experience for me. It was very different those days. You would have 1,000 competitors in a green-blue division. You'd start your first round at 7:30 in the morning. Next fight wouldn't be till 10:30. Whoa. Then it'd go on and on and on. When I got to the finals, I fought the chap who came first, and I lost to him, and then they didn't have a fight off against the second. It became too late. It was core date at night when we finished.
Mad.
So, and that was just the blue belt division, not green. Sorry, it was blue belt it was at the time. Red would be the same, and black, not quite as large, but people like Grandmaster Gerard Robinson, who is the head of the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. He trained, he's out of Hackensack, New Jersey, USA. So you had people like him, who was he was a heavyweight division champion. You had Joe Hayes, you had Mike Warren, Jeff Smith, and prior to that, the early days of that tournament specifically, you had, of course, Chuck Norris, and you had Bill Wallace, and a number of other really key fighters. One of my favorite, and because I was a lightweight, was Mike Warren. Mm-hmm. He was a Muda Kwan stylist, but in those days, we weren't this Kwan, that Kwan, ITF. Park Chung-suk encouraged us to participate in all open tournaments, karate, kung fu, WTF, now referred to as WT, any Muda Kwan, Jido Kwan was very popular. Dongkun Park, Grandmaster Dongkun Park was a large exponent of that style, as was Chong Li in Montreal. So there's this cross-pollination of styles. And who got the benefit? Guys like me.
Yep.
Because we learned, we weren't doing axe kick in those days, Nerio Chagi, as it's referred to in our nomenclature, downward kick. We weren't, all these different techniques were added to our quiver of arrows, if you will, and our technique. And so it allowed us to be well-rounded. Hence, when we went to tournaments, Oklahoma in 1978, I won a gold and 2 silver medals participating for the Canadian team. So I could back up a little bit to state that I did start in 1973, 74. I became a black belt in April 11th. I remember the day of Taekwondo in 1977, the day Taekwondo was founded. And so over the years, because of my exposure to, through Taekwondo, I met General Choi, and I was asked to attend Argentina. I went to Argentina as a member of the 6th ITF demonstration team in 1979. I had won in 78, so I had some notoriety, and moved on to Argentina. We traveled across the country, and we were exposing Taekwondo to areas that didn't have Taekwondo at the time. Some did, many did, and certainly in Buenos Aires, Mendoza, some other key cities, and you've been to them. I met you there in 2000, and was it 18?
18, yeah.
Whatever this says. I brought props. Anyways, so this was actually the tracksuit from the ITF World Championships in Buenos Aires, held by Grandmaster Nestor Galarraga. When I met him in those days, he was just a first-degree black belt, as were many of them. And they had been held back, and Grandmaster J.C. Kim Jong-chan from Vancouver, Canada, he went down and held seminars for them, and a whole slew of them became 4th degrees, which in essence they deserved it. But the politics of the time were the politics of the time.
Yes. Unfortunately,
in Taekwondo, politics has deterred a lot of good things from happening, if you will. So, so I became enthralled with Taekwondo. I went through the ranks like yourself. You're now 5th degree. Congratulations. I heard that recently. And I remember you went for your 4th.
But I remember emailing you asking for a reference to help me go for my fourth, and thank you for that.
Oh God, they should have put you back to third with that reference. Just kidding. No, that's great. Congratulations on both. So with all that said, I've went on and after 1978, 6th ITF demonstration team to Argentina. In 80, they had held the ITF World Championships there in the north of Argentina. It's called Resencia, Chaco is where it was held. I actually did not attend that because I was getting ready to go to North Korea. And that leads into the 7th ITF demonstration team, head by General Choi, which I was honored to be asked and a member of, along with Grandmaster Che Junghwa and a number of other key Taekwondo masters at the time, Park Chung-tae, Grandmaster Park Chung-tae, Grandmaster Lee Gi-ha, as well as Grandmaster Han Sam-soo, Grandmaster Chuck Seraph, and a number of other key, their students from the USA, Carl Nicoletti. There was also Demetrius Cosmoglu, my brother from Greece, as I call him.
Yes.
He was second degree, first or second degree, like I was at the time. And there was from TAG, you know TAG in Britain, TAGV. Yeah, we have Donnelly, Paul Donnelly. Yeah. Paul Donnelly and I were like two peas in a pod over there. And when we were in Sweden, where we started off, we practiced in Sweden. We went on to Moscow, and we traveled through various cities en route to Pyongyang. But we did a demonstration in the USSR, formerly USSR, now called Russia, of course, Moscow. And many people don't know that we introduced Taekwondo at that early stage. They thought it was done 5, 6, 7 years later with more of a formal delegation.
Yes.
We were informal. So we went on to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, commonly known as North Korea. And we're a delegation of 14 people. And I apologize if I've missed anyone's name. I know there's Krasimir Blusar from Yugoslavia, now Croatia. He's Croatian.
Croatia,
from Zagreb. Yeah, but it was called Yugoslavia at the time.
Yeah, yes.
Made up of Serbia and a number of other satellites. But it is now, they're all identified as separate countries. So I'm trying to think of who else I met. Lee Won-sup from Sweden, who was our host in Sweden. Wonderful man, great technician. And of course, Grandmaster Che Sam-dak. His daughter and I are very good friends, Jae Choi. Che, we say in Korean. She is very happy that her father is being recognized around the world, and I've done my best to do that because he was a wonderful technician, practitioner, and very popular. He spread Taekwondo through the Southeast, Phoenix, Arizona, Tucson, all that area, the Southwest.
Okay.
So he was part of our delegation and a key person as well. If I missed anybody, I apologize. But that all said, you've seen the pictures. They're there. And the great Demetrius Cosmoglu is now 9th degree. He was, the North Koreans were amazed with him, with his power and size. They're quite diminutive, some of them, but we saw a lot of very tall North Koreans as well. Call them North Koreans. They're Korean, but from the northern part of the artificially divided country, now South Korea, North Korea. That all said, it was a wonderful experience, and General Choi was especially clever in the sense that he had a mixed team of international people as part of the demonstration team. The 7th demonstration team is probably one of the most important because we can see now that he was born, as General Choi was born in North Korea, he wanted both sides, artificially divided sides, to have Taekwondo. He, as you know, was a general in the South, and he spread Taekwondo from Seoul, South Korea, throughout the world, then from Malaysia afterwards and other places. But Taekwondo, the North Koreans were delighted that this was their Korean national martial art of self-defense. But they were amazed that so many Westerners had adopted it and were thrilled to be practicing it. So it was, I think it was a good decision to go there. Some people at the time, it was all very anti-communist mentality and shallow thinking, I'll call it. I prefer to deal with other countries that may not have my own philosophy of life whether it be, albeit religion or politics, through engagement.
Yes.
We like to engage with other countries. Hence, now when you look at North Korea, they're traveling to the US, they're traveling around the world to tournaments through General Choi's foresight. Keep in mind, General Choi was a Paduk player. The Japanese call it Go. It's a form of chess. He thinks 10 moves ahead, where the average person, no offense, you and I, and many politicians in Korea, did not have that foresight to think, what's my end game? Mm-hmm. Plan your work and work your plan. And yes. Part of him working his plan was to spread Taekwondo by visiting around many countries around the world. I don't want to ramble on too long. I've got a lot to share. Perhaps I should let you ask questions and be a good listener for a moment.
No worries. When we were mentioning there General Choi, a few listeners might know who he is. He's the founder of Taekwondo, and like he did a lot of part of Taekwondo, of the history of what we're doing today. Like Taekwondo is one of the most popular martial arts in the world, and you're seeing back in 1980 going the 7th demonstration team, so many different nationalities there. That shows that his vision back in the 50s that Taekwondo could be this worldwide martial art. So it's great to see that his vision coming in place. With General Choi, later on in his life, did his passion for the martial art grow, or did it stay the same the whole way through? Because I know in age and everything and more pressure, like how did you see him change throughout the years from the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s?
That's probably one of the most interesting and profound questions I've been asked. I've never been asked in many of the interviews I've done before. To understand General Choi, he's a very complicated individual, yet very simple. He's like, as I say, an enigma wrapped up in a bubble, in the sense that he was intensive. That's the word I would use to describe him. Being a family member of his at the time in 78, I traveled a lot with him. I spent a lot of time with him, and more than many, I know him very, very intimately. I mean, we shared the same room when we're traveling. I saw him in the morning washing his socks and his underwear for the day. He was a very pragmatic guy. He gentleman, I should say. He was frugal. He did not like to waste. He would measure the amount of rice that he would eat. He was very, very, you saw pictures of him fit at 80, in his 80s, as he was in his teens or early 20s. So a very disciplined person. As to your question, how he changed, I don't think he ever changed. However, like ourselves, through experience, we grow and we absorb information through our travels. He is a very simple man, however, very complicated. And I think Taekwondo made him more complicated, to answer your question, as he aged through the South Korean dictatorship and how they tried to use Taekwondo in ways that he wasn't keen on. He wanted Taekwondo to go to the socialist countries. He wanted to go to non-aligned neutral countries. And there were many of those. Sweden, Norway had it. But Finland and Cuba, some other ones that were socialist more so. But as an example, he thought Taekwondo should be enjoyed by everyone. And as I've said in the past, Taekwondo is for everyone. It doesn't respect or disrespect any ism or religious order or what have you. So General Choi was intense on the day he died as the day in April 11th, 1955, he founded Taekwondo. I would have to use the word matured, and I don't want to say it in a disrespectful way, but as you travel around the world, keep in mind, yesterday was Mrs. Choi's birthday, Mrs. Choi Hong-hee, his wife. She just turned 92 years old, fit as a fiddle, and as regal a lady in person as she was when I met her 45 years ago, what have you. And he would be gone for 6 months, 7 months at a time, come home for a week and back off again, because Taekwondo was his life. So if you say, what is Taekwondo General Choi? It was more important than his family. It was more important than anything to him. If his name is Taekwondo, it wasn't really General Choi Hong-hee, although that's his birth name, Choi Hong-hee. His name was Taekwondo. He ate it, slept it. I'll give you an example. We'd be all sitting around the TV watching a movie, like most families do on a Sunday night. And you're right into it. There's 5 of us from various sisters and children. Grandmaster Choi, who's now the president of the ITF. We're watching a movie intensely. All of a sudden, we look up the corner of our eye and we see General Choi saying, Michael, do you say going into W-shaped block or going to W-shaped block? He lived, breathed, and slept Taekwondo. Brilliant. He, of course, would enjoy the simple things in life, and certainly his family, his daughters, his son, his grandchildren, and he had many friends, and most of all, his students, his instructors were his true sons. Mm-hmm. So he was simple yet complicated. That would define him. But when I gave that example, I mean, it's normal for us. When you watch a movie, you're focused, right? His mind was continually thinking Taekwondo. As an example, in North Korea, as I mentioned to you, I've been there 16, 17 times. In the morning, I never needed an alarm clock. His room would be beside mine and Grandmaster Choi Jung-hwa's. We would hear at 5:30. He would be practicing against the wall. The whole hotel would rumble, all 32 floors of it in Pyongyang. He would be toughening his hand. He would do his calisthenics in the morning. And so we would just be coming in 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning because it's a Saturday night. We were enjoying our time. We found a new country. They had diplomatic clubs for us to attend, and we met people from Iran and Russia and Cuba and all the different countries around the world that had relationships with North Korea, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So we'd be wiped out. He'd say front and center. He was an army general, don't forget.
Yes.
You better be down for breakfast at 6:30 sharp and not a minute late. So with those kind of things, he was finite. But when it came to the simple things in life, he was a very human, gentle, warm spirit, and a lovely man that I had the honor to travel with, and a real sense of humor that I think the Irish would appreciate. Yes. We're flying in 1984 to Glasgow, the 4th ITF World Championships. And the stewardess comes by and she says to him, "Sir, would you like anything to drink?" In his Korean accent that I'll say respectfully, he says, 6 + 1 up. She says, "I'm sorry, sir." She says, "I'll have 6 + 1 up." She says, "I don't know what that is." She says, "You've never heard of 7-Up?" It's a pop drink. Like, and the candy tray would come and he'd take a hand like this to grab a whole bunch of them and then go one and delicately just take one out at the last second. So he always was a prankster, and we had a lot of fun. And people loved him. He had enemies, of course, because they were envious of him. And his goal, he was like a horse race, a thoroughbred in a horse race. He had blinders on, Taekwondo. Anybody who interferes with that, whether they thought it or not, was not welcome or considered persona non gratis, not one of my good friends. He was very focused. And he had to be. How many countries are in the world? 250, 300? The bottom line is that he spread Taekwondo to all these countries, and he was very focused, and he put Korea on the map. Many people who knew of Korea before Taekwondo. The two words are synonymous, whether north or south. So the fact that he was passionate, focused, a genius in the sense of who can create these type of things. You know, I mean, he had his history in Japan. He took elements of many martial arts. And as I've said before, Taekwondo is evolutionary, not revolutionary. It evolves as new ideas and scientific thought are added to it. One book that I've been involved with, if I may show it to you.
Yes, of course.
Is the Taekwondo Study Companion. Can you read that?
Yeah, yes.
And I was honored to be asked to edit a number of pages by the authors. Dimitri Balabanos, he's a 8th degree black belt holder. He's from Greece, from the town of Larissa. And then you have George Lazarou, who's, I think he's 6th degree, and he's from Athens. Athens, they have a port area called Piraeus. He's a medical doctor. Hence, a lot of this book And the reason I promote it, I have no monetary value or gain from doing this, by the way, just to be very clear about that. I get nothing. They gave me a couple of free books for my work. But I edited it, and I loved the microscopic, scientific, and medical approach to Taekwondo. It's something that I felt is slightly missing or could be had to evolve over the years. So these two gentlemen did a wonderful job, and they asked me to write the foreword for this book, which I did. And I don't know, can you see that?
Yeah, we can see, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the foreword that I wrote for the book. And then there's a picture of Grandmaster Taekwon-Do, now president of the ITF, and myself in 1980, September, doing sidekicks in North Korea, awesome. In Kumgang-san. It's a mountain to the east of Pyongyang, a very historical place with lots of stories. So that's a long answer to a simple question, but your question is profound, and I haven't been asked it before, so thank you.
No, it's a great answer, because like being obsessed, like, you know, understand that myself, like whenever because I teach every day Taekwondo, and it's just in the brain all the time, thinking about Taekwondo. I see something in a movie, how can I incorporate that in my teaching? Or if I'm watching YouTube, other instructors, like, keep ideas. That's why I like to travel a lot of seminars. And you mentioned about going to different tournaments and kickboxing, karate. We do that a lot too, because I believe you can learn from everyone. Like, I'm learning something today from yourself, and I bring back to my students, or the way I teach them, the way my mannerism, my talking will improve now from this chat with us.
No, that's excellent. Yes, I myself learn as well every day, and Taekwondo is all about sharing and caring and having common goals. The 10 of Taekwondo give us the foundation to have moral culture, because you cannot equip people with a lethal weapon without having constraints. You have a safety on a gun. Taekwondo, if you do not have the philosophy to support it, or any martial art for that matter, you must have control of your facilities, mental, spiritually, and physical. We're not just about kicking and punching. Taekwondo. The Do is what supports that and balances what we learn, practice, and how we behave in society as a martial artist.
Yes.
So I think in the ITF under Grandmaster Taekwon-Do, it's highly emphasized, the Do, the spiritual, the moral culture, how one behaves himself in society and contributes to society. So to your point, we share, we put our ideas into the middle of a pile, and we might not want all of those, but we pick the ones out and add them to our own being and our quiver of arrows, as I said before, for when it comes to sparring or something of that nature, but also for the patterns and for philosophy. It's all about learning. And going back to your other question, General Choi was the ultimate teacher. He was a teacher. He was a general, but a highly educated general, in the sense that it wasn't just about the martial aspect of the military, and that transcend into Taekwondo. He was very focused on the moral culture and having that balance, so that his soldiers would have control of their mental facilities, not just like an angry tiger running out there and scratching at the enemy, so to speak. So sometimes in Taekwondo, it's very important to step back one step before you go forward two.
Yeah.
2 steps, not also 2 steps. So again, the whole premise of Taekwondo is General Choi. If you cut off his arm, he's still Taekwondo. You cut off his legs, he's Taekwondo. Like, he is like consumed by it. I wouldn't say obsessed. Obsession to me has a negative connotation. It's just that if you're a priest and you have your flock of parishioners, you're passionate about what you believe in, and you want to share that around the world, or to your own flock, your own city, country, what have you. But he was more like a pope, in the sense that he traveled around the world, and Taekwondo, as you well know, spread like a wildfire, to use his quotation. And he wanted to make sure it went to every country, every city, every village around the world, and hopefully one day to the planets.
That was his goal, yes. Yeah.
So it's never ending. It's a universal martial art, not just an international martial art or global for that matter.
Because I read somewhere before, and he said that his encyclopedia was the Bible, and he brought his Bible to every country in the world, and Taekwondo was bigger than any religion because they accepted everyone.
Yes, I don't see things as bigger or conflicting. I think they're complementary to each other's as philosophies. I see that Taekwondo has a social aspect, not as in socialism, but social aspect in the sense that, like religion, it has morals. It has its Tene of Taekwondo. Mm-hmm. You have the 10 Commandments. We have the 10 of Taekwondo. They're both complementary. Yeah. He was not a Christian per se, more Confucianist, because that's the country he came from. It's like someone from Saudi Arabia, they're a Muslim, or Iran, they're Muslim, different kind of flavor of Muslim religion, but they believe in Muhammad, they believe in Islam. It's virtuous philosophies that hopefully contribute to a more peaceful world.
Yes.
And to that end, and in concert with that thought, Taekwondo is all about a more peaceful world. Because how are you going to train when you got people with bats and people stealing your equipment from your dojo? You want to have a society that's balanced. The word I always go back to, and probably the most important word in Taekwondo, is the balance between kicking and punching, the yin and the yang, as they say in Korean philosophy, and yang, they say in Korean. However, it's very hard to practice what you preach. We're not saints. General Choi is a little closer to sainthood than I am, or perhaps yourself. But we try our best, and we soldier on to be the best we can. And I think Taekwondo has given me a lot of opportunity in my life. You mentioned what were some of the things, I think you're going to ask me about what are some of my memories of travels with General Choi. And I think the intensity of it was exhausting. It wasn't all fun and games. I mean, it wasn't all that. He's an intense person. So you're used to your lifestyle here. You get up at 7:30. You hit the sack when you want, right? You go to bed, on the weekends, maybe a little later and all that good stuff. He was extremely disciplined. So he had to fall into his pattern of life. Yeah. Not necessarily the tool, the patterns that we for those, you can explain what that means later on. But tool is Korean word for patterns in ITF, in Taekwondo that General Choi created. So working or traveling with him was like work. Up, on time. He wanted you to perform on time and error-free. He wanted you to have fun at the same time, the word balance coming in again. But it was a very strict regimen, and you had to follow his way, or the highway, so to speak. But it was wonderful traveling to South America. I went through Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. The hotel we stayed at in El Salvador was blown up by rebels a week after we'd stayed there. Timing is everything. Just like inspiring. Yes. Anyways, so we went to Tegucigalpa, Honduras, and Raul, forget his last name, Bonizas, I believe it is. He had the Pan Am Games there. So we had only people from Central America, Mexico, and South America attend. So I went with General Choi, and I would do some demonstrations as his assistant. And I spent a lot of time with him. We were in the same room, and we ate together, traveled together. So that was one of the fun times that I really enjoyed, because it was just him and I, so it was focused. When we went to Grandmaster Charles Seraph, Denver, Colorado, he's the head of president of the USTF, the first white, non-Korean, I'll call them, could be any color, but let me say first non-Korean to receive 9th degree black belt, and from General Choi in Changwon Taekwondo, as they reference it. I just call it Taekwondo, but people like these descriptors to differentiate between some of the kwons in Korean martial arts that are out there. So in traveling with him there, it was intense, but it was a wonderful, went to a summer camp in 1989, I think it was.
Yes.
And it was a phenomenal experience. The best black belts from all over the U.S. Came and trained with us. It was in the mountains in Cold Lake, I think it's called, or Grand Lake, one of the two. And Grandmaster Seraph and Renee Seraph, who's still very active in that organization today, they helped us have a wonderful time, and they put on a wonderful spread, if you will. And there was good heart training. These people like to train. I can tell you that. They train hard.
Which all we were talking about your stories and all about Taekwondo and everything you've done led you to being inducted to the Hall of Fame of Taekwondo.
Yes. Grandmaster Gerard Robbins started the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame a number of years ago. And I act today as the Continental Director for North America, ITF. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, perfect, yeah.
Okay, so I'm quite active with Grandmaster Robbins and a number of other directors to honor those who, like ourselves, have been honored. I was honored in 2015. A number of people that you would know, and grandmasters, masters, and people contributed to Taekwondo, albeit in sports or propagation, spreading Taekwondo around the world, refereeing. Refereeing is a very hard job.
Yeah.
You know, it takes its toll, you know, sitting there and walking and being focused for so long. So the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame honors those who stand out and have contributed to the spread of Taekwondo. And initially it started where it was more champion oriented. Those who had won championships. You've got Jeff Smith from Washington, D.C. You have Mike Warren, you have Mitch Babak. These are all U.S. gentlemen. But there's also Ricky Ha. There's Nam Tae Hee, who was ninth degree, literally the first ninth degree in my opinion, but he was not with General Choi at the time. He was out of Chicago. And so he was the highest. But after him, the first in Taekwondo ITF would be Grandmaster Ricky Ha and Grandmaster Seraph and a number of others. Mr. Che Chamgun, C.K. Choi in Vancouver,
Yes.
Grandmaster Kim Jong-chan in Vancouver, wonderful man, real proponent of Taekwondo. Most of the international Taekwondo, he and Grandmaster Che, when they were in Malaysia and in Singapore, they developed the ITF logo and crest and can help General Choi immensely with the founding of the International Taekwondo Federation, March 22nd, 1966. In Seoul, Korea, in the Rose Room of the Chosun Hotel. Anyways, so the Taekwondo is, General Choi has passed, and since then it's been 10 years. He would be delighted to see a lot of the good things that his son has continued on with, as well as other instructors and other organizations. I'm one who believes in unity. You know, 1 + 1 = 3 to me.
Yes.
And so the unity in Taekwondo is something that I aspire to see, and I'm an ambassador for the International Taekwondo Federation across all organizations, independents, what have you. They're all his children.
Yes.
They all came from the seed. They're all seeds from the original founder. And he would like to see it unified once again. You have Taekwondo out of Vienna, the International Taekwondo Federation in Vienna, Austria, who's connected with North Korea to a great degree, but they're very international as well. And there's other groups in Paul Wheeler now is the president of the ITF that Pablo Trachtenberg and Grandmaster Trachtenberg and Grandmaster Morano and Tran Chu Kwan. Tran Chu Kwan was like a brother to me in Quebec City. Again, he had excellent students. Grandmaster Tran was in Honduras with us. He helped General Choi spread Taekwondo to a great degree. But again, Westerners have this difficulty understanding the Korean culture and the mindset of grandmasters, and in this case, the founder. But grandmasters, masters have always had difficulty with the Western mind adopting this loyalty to the person who teaches them. In the Orient, your teacher till you die.
Yep.
And one should respect that. But unfortunately, the almighty dollar, the bad dough in Taekwondo, as we call dough money in Canada, it can pollute the mind of good people. And there's power as well in the politics of the day. So I try not to get too hung up on those type of things. But we were talking about the Hall of Fame, and this is the award I received from in 2015. It was held in Zagreb, Croatia.
Croatia, yeah.
Zagreb, Croatia. And what a wonderful, you asked about my travels. That was another memorable time. Not to be honored so much. I mean, that's wonderful and it's great and all that good stuff. But to meet the people that I met from WT, from ITF, from independents who were honored at the time. I've got long-lasting lifetime friends, out of it that I've met, and I reacquainted with Dmitry Kozmoglu and his brother, and I met a number of people from Australia and across the globe. So these are the things that make Taekwondo wonderful, and that's why I support the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame so much, because it brings brotherhood, sisterhood, unity to people. It recognizes the history of Taekwondo, while at the same time honoring those who have contributed to that history. Mm-hmm. So Grandmaster Gerard Robbins has done a wonderful job, and like the ITF, South Korea is trying to interfere with some of the things he's doing. They're trying to move the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame to South Korea. Why? U.S. is a very powerful country that has relationships with people. It's a wonderful place to have it, the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame, which is in Hackensack, New Jersey, where he just happens to live, Grandmaster Robbins. But General Choi moved the ITF to Vienna, Austria. Did it have to be in South Korea? Especially South Korea does not have relationships with a lot of socialist, communist, non-aligned countries. Vienna is a neutral country. And by the way, Vienna, more than any other country, has the most international organizations, global organizations that have their head office there. Again, his research, his mindset, the way he thought things out, very deliberate, planned, again, 10 moves ahead, as they say in chess, or Go, or Paduk, as it's called in Korean, those games. Yes. So,
and that's that the Hall of Fame was a highlight for yourself. But what was the biggest highlight in the Taekwondo career that you have that stands out to you? That's something that you go, wow, right now you go, wow, I done that, or I've been there. Like a highlight, a real highlight.
I've had many, like all of us in Taekwondo, getting your first degree black belt in April 1977. That's certainly a highlight. Spending time with General Choi, and prior to that, when I fought and was recognized, I was on the Canadian team under Grandmaster Pak Jong-soo. I was chosen for the Canadian team with five others plus a sub. I think there were 6 of us total. So winning. Can you see that? Yeah, second World Championships was September 1978, and I was fortunate enough to win a couple of medals. In all modesty, I shouldn't be showing these, but since you asked, so that was the gold medal in sparring, and a silver in patterns.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, and then team sparring as well. We have another medal here in team sparring. So I guess the fact that they have General Choi on top of them, they're quite heavy, so bear with me. Brilliant. But so that's part of my, I would say, the physical in my childhood, being only, I think it was in my 20s. That was important to me to win the medals, etc. kind of physical part of Taekwondo. Now, I would say doing things like this, meeting good people like you, and sharing the moral culture of Taekwondo would be the highlight of today. To fossilize or to spread Taekwondo like General Choi, and he's gone. He's not here anymore. So all of his disciples, masters, grandmasters, masters, students, many of us, I think we've been given a gift. We should share that gift with the world. So I'm honored that you asked me to do this podcast to share a little bit about myself and my history, but also most importantly to talk about Taekwondo and how it's helped me and it's helped you, and it's helped many of our friends, people we know and those we don't even know, but we've heard of. Again, one of the honors I had and memories is that Chuck Norris was at ringside when I fought for my gold medal on the team and individual sparring in 1978. And I have had the pleasure of meeting a number of very interesting martial artists around the world. So I'll group that into one big memory.
Yes.
All the famous people, grandmasters, masters, people that you read in Taekwondo Times, you read about in Black Belt magazine. These were my heroes when I started off. We all have our mentors, and I've had followed their careers throughout the world. And I know that Gerard Robinson, the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame, has done an excellent job of documenting the history, not only the winners and the champions, but showing how Taekwondo has evolved through the WTF, WT now, and ITF as well. So that organization is blind to ITF, WT. They don't care. They just know it's all Taekwondo, General Choi's Taekwondo, and they would like to focus on its history and give honor to those that have, and recognition to those who have won tournaments, been champions, and have helped spread it in many different ways, being a referee, doing seminars, and what have you. So I also found this upstairs, and I think some lad from Belfast might have given it to, I don't know if, do you want it back? I still want to keep it if you don't mind.
You keep it for now a while. Very good.
I would have worn it, but it clashes with my outfit. But that was very kind of you. That's an official Cathal Fagan coach, Schools of Taekwondo coach t-shirt.
2016 World Championships in Brighton, England. That's when I met you and gave me that t-shirt.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Brilliant.
Anyways.
I see you do a lot of traveling with Taekwondo and even personal life. What country stands out for you that you want to get back again to? I know Greece is up there.
There's a number of them. Can I give you a couple?
Of course.
Yeah. So one right now would be Greece, because I am very close to the Greek community, especially in Taekwondo. I have a lot of friends. Vasilis Alexandris, who's in Thessaloniki, where my wife is from. And of course, Dimitri Kosmoglu, both grandmasters. And there's a number of other key people there that I'm close to. Master Natasa Manavaki. She's one of the students of Vasilis. So all this group, this family, Dimitri Palabanos and George Lazarou. In Preveza, there's a number of people that are very strong. Soldatis Agalos, you know him. Many others, some of his students, Stathis, Kavaris, I can't pronounce his last name, I apologize. But good people, solid people, have spread Taekwondo throughout Greece. Greece is one of the countries that Taekwondo is thriving through the hard efforts of these kind of people. So that'd be a country I'd like to go and meet with people I've met and spent a lot of time with. And some of them are friends from Facebook I've never even met. But I know I could call them up from on my cell phone and be there in 15 minutes. We'd have a coffee and a laugh and talk about Taekwondo. These people like myself, we use the word obsessed. I think we're the ones obsessed with Taekwondo. I think General Choi was just his blood. You need it to breathe. It has oxygen in it. It kept his heart going. But to him, it's inseparable. To us, it's kind of an arm's length obsession.
Yes.
Like many people have for sports. So Greece would be one of those that I would like to see my obsessed Taekwondo friends enjoy a glass of wine with, I guess, at night. Also, I'd like to go back to Korea. I haven't had the chance to visit General Choi's gravesite in Pyongyang. So I would like to go there. I'd like to go to South Korea, the southern part, but it's called South Korea, and spend time there again. I've spent a lot of time over there, but I haven't been there for almost 20 years. Oh. So it's due time. I'd be back.
Of course.
But I've been all through China. I was in China 2 years ago. Shanghai, Beijing, Harbin in the north, where Mrs. Che was born. Che Hong-hee was born in the northern part. A very strong Korean population up there. It's like Mangwal, Manchuria is Harbin. So, and just south of there, there's Jilin province. It's almost all Korean people, mostly from the northern part. So there's, they call them prefectures, little like provinces.
Okay.
So those areas are heavy. Taekwondo is very strong there, and very strong in Beijing and Shanghai and various other cities. So I'd like to spend some time in Asia, but that's more than one country. So I said I'd only talk about two.
No, the same myself. I was hoping to go to South Korea. Actually, this month there was a World Cup on for Taekwondo, but because of the pandemic, it's been cancelled. And I'm hoping
Shan Yu was hosting that, was he not?
Yeah, that's correct.
Master Shan Yu. Yeah, very nice gentleman. Another good friend of mine. I have met him. We spent a lot of time where I met you in Brighton, England.
That's correct.
So
yes.
Brighton Beach, Brighton and Hove, the specific area. There was a wonderful tournament. Grandmaster Trevor Nichols did a wonderful job in his organizing committee, as did Grandmaster Nestor Galarraga in his organizing committee in both tournaments that I met you at and your students. That was in 2018, in Buenos Aires.
Yes.
So again, these are great opportunities for us to collectively get together, share ideas, and we have a wonderful tournament. And I'm exhausted after those events, not from the long hours, but focusing on the sparring so much. I feel like I'm back in the ring again.
Yes.
It really gets my blood boiling. And in Brighton, you could see there's a picture of my niece, Jasmine Choi, and both of us watching a bout so intensely, like as if they're out there. So I have to thank those competitors because they bring back wonderful memories, and Taekwondo is passionate. And yeah, I guess we're all a little obsessed.
I'm a bit obsessed. In 2018, I remember that one of my students, Aoife, was fighting, and after the fight, you stood up and you said, use your front leg, and you're giving her advice and motivation for the next fight. So fair play to you.
Aoife Lefe? What's her last name?
Aoife Lai.
Lai, yeah, Lai. Sorry, my Gaelic's shite. But we'll soldier on with that one. But yeah, she's a lovely girl, and when I see the young guys and girls, whatever, out there, so passionate, again, it brings back the memories, and just some small tweaking, that girl's going to be a champion one day. Mm-hmm. You know, if she isn't already. I think she must be in England, but I mean a world champion.
Yes.
And she's very talented. There are another girl from Argentina, Karen Lau. I'd never seen her fight before, very talented. And then on the guys' side, Fabian Pini, his son,
Lucas.
I'm trying to remember, Master Lucas Pini.
Lucas, yeah.
Very talented gentleman. So I love to see that the standard of Taekwondo is so elevated, or no offense, so it kind of was in our day, I thought quite elevated. Then it went into a bit of a lull. Now I see it right back there again. So I'm delighted to see the quality of the techniques and using the full array of of techniques, kicking, punching, jumping, flying kicks, and the timing is so much better. At times it gets a little sloppy with the continuous punching.
Yes. Because
we allow punching. That's a big deficit for WT. You know, a lot of my friends who are WTF, WT are very disappointed in the quality that this chicken fighting, because you can't use hands, and it becomes diluted, if you will, watered down. And I think if we ever did unify and have one world championship that allowed ITF and WTF to participate, they'd have to add hand techniques into the point system. Yes. And a lot of my WTF people, WT friends, would like to see that. you can't, it's not sabat, like the old French martial art, kicking only with your hands tied behind your back, so to speak. Not that they did, but as an analogy. We should use our full arsenal of technique. It's not called Kwon-Do, it's Taekwondo. Or it's not called Tae-Do, it's Taekwondo. Hands, feet, full arsenal of techniques with the balance and respect for each other that the Do implies through the Tene of Taekwondo, the moral culture. So yeah, I've had wonderful memories of meeting good people like yourself, your students, meeting people like Grandmaster Gerard Robbins through the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame. He's passionate with Taekwondo, and he's obsessed with making sure people get notoriety and the respect that they deserve through the hard work of contributing to Taekwondo. Not just the grandmasters, so to speak, of all the pioneers. They did, without them, we'd be nothing. I have the highest and ultimate respect for them. But the official Taekwondo Hall of Fame, and why I'm passionate about it and involved with it across continental North America, which is Canada, USA, what have you, for the ITF players. I think it does a lot for the art, and it keeps the spirit up and does what is morally right, give recognition to those who contributed in many various ways. And
we have the president of the ITF at the moment is Grandmaster Choi Chung-Wah. He's a very passionate guy also, and he's done a lot for the ITF. How do you see the ITF moving forward now in the next sort of 5-10 years, especially with the pandemic now? A lot of people are using Zoom for classes, international tournaments on Zoom. Like it's a real teller that the Taekwondo never stops. It keeps going, it adapts. And I know it's with President Choi over the last sort of 5-6 years, sort of going to seminars and all, like he's very progressive. He's talking about the history, but how we can move forward and become better. How do you see the ITF changing more in the future?
Well, I'm glad you noted President Choi Chung-Wah. He's the son of the founder, my brother-in-law. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Okay. In the sense that he's as passionate as his father, or very close to, if not equal. And he's done a terrific job with a lot of difficulties in spreading Taekwondo with, South Korea, WTF, WT, all the politics, etc., and the politics within ITF. So how do I see it changing? He continuing the good work that he's doing, but also having interaction with other ITFs and get a dialogue going so that we can unify the three entities, the three main entities, and very importantly, including all the independents. They're all as important as the big number orgs, ITF organizations out there. You saw, I did an interview with Brendan Dugan from Auckland, New Zealand, yes, and a gentleman from Ottawa, one of my countrymen. And I shared with him, you're from another ITF. People don't engage these days and have a dialogue with each other. If Taekwondo is to survive, we must have this interaction, brotherhood, unity, and try our best to put it underneath one organization so it's as strong as it was, or much stronger than it was when General Choi was alive. So I think if we could be one ITF Taekwondo and even the WTF, some form of amalgamation one day, if possible. They are very different in many ways, but at least as the first step in the next 10 years, as you asked, the ITF, we should use our best efforts, as I have been doing, and many others, to have interaction, engagement, and open tournaments so that all participants that are formerly under ITF Taekwondo, some call it Jangwon style, should be fighting together and patterns together, sparring patterns, breaking, special techniques. And that, through that engagement, then you have the friendships afterwards. You go out for dinner at night, you talk, you get to know people. They're not bad people. They're the same as us. They just have followed a different path, albeit I believe it to be the wrong path, some of them. I think engagement might, we should all be good, what shall I call it? Like priests going to countries around the world and spreading Catholicism or spreading what have you. We should convert these people to understand the value to them, first of all, to their students, and to Taekwondo. If we're not selfish people, which I believe most of us aren't, we should put the Taekwondo and the organization above our own personal needs and personal, sometimes hidden agendas. Mm-hmm. Importance of being together. So I know in this interview, I didn't want to bog you down in so much ITF talk, etc. But that's where I'm from.
Yes.
And the correlation to General Choi and Taekwondo, General Choi Hong-hee, the founder, and my relationships are very ITF focused and have been. But more so than that, as I hope I've shared, I'm very good friends with a lot of WTF, WT people that practice a slightly different form of what they call Taekwondo, Korean karate, Taekwondo, what have you. But it's Taekwondo to them, and it's Taekwondo to all of us. We'd like to have this unification of Taekwondo and unification of North and South Korea, the homeland, to, it's a martial art, a Korean martial art of self-defense. Now it's a universal martial art, international martial art of self-defense. So all these things tie together. That's why General Choi was so passionate about the unification of his country. United we stand, divided we fall, so to speak.
Yes.
So you can see I've got a bit of an Irish background with my little colloquial sayings and what have you.
And the name as well, Michael Cormack, gives it away.
Yeah, well, my mother was a Brennan from
Right,
County
yes.
Cork, actually from Cork.
That's
So,
right.
so I have a bit of Irish watered down. I think my Irish accent's better than that gentleman you interviewed in the U.S. with American accent. I found it kind of cute, but a lot of North Americans do come from, the Isle, if you will.
Yeah, one of
my daughter, I named her Erin. I named my daughter Erin.
And
Yeah,
it means,
so there you go.
you told me before, it means Ireland in Irish, but you told me it also means love thy neighbor in Korean. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, Erin means love thy neighbor. That's right. I did share that with you. See what we learn from our interactions when we meet? That's why Taekwondo people have to be unified.
That was 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years. Good memory, sir. Good memory. So yeah, E as in saranghae means I love you. E means love, and Rin. General Choi changed her Korean character to the word neighbor versus another way of Rin has different meanings in Korean. So E Rin means love thy neighbor. Brilliant. And my son is Jae Lee, like Wiam, the pattern.
Yes, yes.
I think it's 13th in line, Wiam. So Jae Lee, his name means an international gentleman, ambassador, businessman.
Cool.
So General Choi, everything he did was so researched and had meaning. Many people don't know this, but he actually designed the WTF Gukkiwon. The plans for the Gukkiwon, he actually designed them.
Okay.
And every room was based on the number 9. So if a wall was 27 feet, 3 9s are 27, by 9 or by 18. Everything to him, because 9, why do we not have 10th degree in Taekwondo? Because 9 is the highest single digit. No. 10 is 0. That's why when I see these 10th degrees, 11th degrees, it shows a lack of history.
Yes.
and understanding of Korean numerology and the philosophy behind Taekwondo. It may not be important to them. It is important to me, as I'm sure it is to you, that we maintain a purest Taekwondo philosophy and in our techniques and what have you, our syllabus, our what we train and study. However, I do believe it to be evolutionary. So when we vet and study techniques, if they make sense and are scientifically valuable, we add it to Taekwondo. So Taekwondo can grow. General Choi firmly believed in that. And that's why I like this Taekwondo study companion, because it microscopically drills down into the physiology of Taekwondo, how our body interacts with the motions and techniques that we do. So I find it's not a replacement for the Encyclopedia of Taekwondo. It's never been intended to be, or I wouldn't support it. But it is a good companion, as the name suggests, to assist the student in understanding some different aspects that General Choi didn't, he could only live so long. He couldn't, he did so much. So it delves into areas that add value to the learning process that General Choi has in the set. So you'll see a set of Taekwondo encyclopedias, 1 to 15, that will be on the side of it. Hence, they made it smaller out of respect to the original. And then we have the condensed version, because General Choi couldn't carry 15 Bibles around the world with him. The condensed encyclopedia and many of the books that preceded it, I have like 5, 6 of them from 1970s, 60. The first one I have is 69, I think, 74, 72. But Taekwondo evolved. There were many mistakes in some of those because of language. Translating Korean to English is not that easy sometimes, and vice versa. So the books evolved until the encyclopedia, the final edition, was excellent. And I hope Taekwondo has good people like you and people who are passionate that will continue to evolve it for their students and themselves. You learn to the day you die. Exactly. And those who don't, black belt is just like taking off your diaper as a child and being toilet trained. You poor analogy, but you understand what I'm saying. Your first degree black belt is like getting your grade 8 diploma. Then you go to high school, and you get your 4th degree. Then you go to university, and then you become 7th degree. And then from 7th degree on, it's more how you are spreading Taekwondo around the world, what you're contributing to the art in a moral way, as a pioneer has, and as the new masters and grandmasters are doing a wonderful job of. I'm quite impressed with, regardless of the org, by the way. Again, I think the friends that you and I have met and people that are with President Taekwon-Do and working hard underneath him have done phenomenal work. Susan Crochet in Kansas City, Master Susan Crochet comes to mind. John Johnson, who works at Young University. I sent him one of those books. He's a really passionate, hardworking guy and a Taekwondoist. And there are a number of others that I've met through the Taekwondo world. I have met him, but there's others that I haven't met. And I'm quite impressed with the family, the community that we built, that I think today General Choi, while he's resting and looking down from above, would be very happy with. Not focusing on the separation and the kitchen thinking, I call it, limited mentality. Again, 10 steps ahead. We have to be like General Choi and think 10 moves ahead if we want to have checkmate in our lifelong chess game of Taekwondo, if you will.
That's brilliant, sir. Thank you very much for coming on today, and I'm glad to have you as a guest. When I started the podcast off a year ago, you were on the top of the list, and I've been progressing across more episodes. This is episode 10, so I thought it was the perfect number to have you on. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you. I appreciate speaking with you, and I hope that the listeners would understand a number of the topics and appreciate some of the good people, certainly not myself. I'm thinking more about the people I talked about in the interview, the Gerard Robbins, John Johnson's, President Che, Nestor Galarraga, Grandmaster Trevor. Wonderful man. I really enjoyed my time with him and his sons. I met them both, and he runs a wonderful organization out of London, England, UK. So I think you all do a sheer grand job of it. And I'm proud to have spent time with you today and chatting.
No, I really enjoyed it. I have a list of people I wanted, and you were on the top of the list, and a few other people in Taekwondo. Hopefully someday they'll get a chance to interview, and of course, hopefully someday maybe President Che someday will come along and talk about the ITF and help promote it. But I'm very appreciated today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I very much appreciate being asked, and I've enjoyed it. Good luck with your work, your one-hit podcasts, and continue them. And I look forward to viewing this when it's out for publication and produced.
And also the one hit, the name of where I got the one hit from was because General Choi, one hit, one strike.
Yeah.
So that's
Sure.
where the name came from.
Yeah, very good analogy, and well done. Well done.
Right.
All the best, and I hope you enjoy your evening, the rest of the weekend, and we will keep in touch, sir.